There you see our officials as we are just about set for the opening tip. Coach Kennedy. Anthony Johnson coming off a monster game in the regular season finale. The first man in a Fairfield uniform in a decade since Darren Phillip to go for 20 and 20.
Yeah, just the 10th 2020 on the season across the country, and not just a monster last game. How about the monster weekend? As we said, the game against Iona, which secured the second seed, he had 28 and 12 and was just unstoppable inside.
And for the last 5 games of the regular season, Johnson averaged 21 points per game and 14 rebounds per game. There's Shameik Johnson, not to be confused. He's the redshirt freshman who also played a terrific end stretch of the regular season.
Yeah, coming off a career high in that ball game with 14 points. And really interesting, they had 2 guys with career highs. Sean Crawford with the career high 25 and Shameik Johnson with the career high 14, and they needed every one of those points to get the overtime win in the regular season finale against Niagara.
And the difference in those 2 games, Shameik Johnson bettered his career point total by 1, but Crawford shattered his previous career high. He had 15 as a career high going into that game and scored 25 and played such a huge role in that ball game.
And part of that role was handling the basketball as Needham fouled out in overtime. And when he fouled out, he said, oh my goodness, Fairfield's in trouble. Well, they weren't in trouble because Anthony Johnson just absolutely had his way inside. And as well, Crawford did a terrific job, not just with those 25 points, but running the team once Needham was sitting down.
Here is Crawford working the baseline. In that game against Niagara last Sunday, the Stags won in overtime 80-74. Anthony Johnson, the 24 points and 23 rebounds. Needham was only 4 of 19 in that game before fouling out.
Yeah, Needham struggled in his 2 regular season matchups against Canisius. Combined from the floor, he was just 9 of 34. Both he and Anthony Johnson really struggled against this Canisius team. As I said in the open, they've got good matchups through the Grits.
Frank Turner can't get the roll. Rebound bounces out to Crawford. Fairfield with 20 wins this year, just the 5th time in program history they've reached that level. The tip by Shameik Johnson off the mark. Here comes Turner. And Vasquez Simmons pulls it back out to Robert Goldsberry.
Well, last night, every time Goldsberry touched the basketball, there were boos from this crowd. A lot of Siena St. fans in the building, and he was hearing it every time he touched the basketball. Looks like all the Saints fans went home, so maybe he'll have a much quieter game here tonight.
Well, the Saints fans got their booing directed at Darrell Crawford of the Manhattan Jaspers in our second quarterfinal. And they will be ready to go tomorrow afternoon against Ryder in the first MAAC semifinal. Here's Goldsberry. Back-to-back field goals for the junior from Troy, Ohio. Goldsberry, not much of a scorer, just over 3 per game. But we have seen this before, where when he does look to shoot, he is certainly capable of scoring.
You see Goldsberry goes down the lane, defense late to get there and take it away. And then Goldsberry, plenty of time, no defender running out at him. As you said, Doug averages just 3 a game, so he's well past that here in the first couple of minutes.
You know, he was put into the starting lineup against Bowling Green back on December 12th, and I like what he brings to the starting lineup for Tom Parada.
He's a guy that brings energy and effort and throws his body all around.
Big move by Anthony Johnson.
He's playing with a ton of confidence. Catch and not ever thinking about it. Going right to the backboard and attacking the rim.
Goldsberry 5, Fairfield 4. Here goes Turner driving on Needham. Anthony Johnson with a rebound. Needham, nice look. Crawford has himself in amongst the trees, though, and wisely gets it out to Needham, who finds Colin Nickerson just off the bench. And the rebound grabbed by Frazier. Vasquez Simmons went down. He gets back up, and now Canisius, 4 minutes into the ball game, will set things up. Elton Frazier, a real high riser. Tough shot. Gets it back, and he throws it down.
Oh, right on cue. He was listening to you over here, showing you his ups. And what he has done this year is he has not settled for threes, and he's attacked the rim. Just 16 three-point attempts this year after his first 2 years with 137. Playing to his strength, and his strength is attacking the rim, and when he gets there, he can elevate over just about anybody.
And you know, in last night's win over Marist, he scored 17 points, which nearly equals his entire tournament output for his 2 previous seasons. And Shaimik Johnson off the mark.
I'm sorry, and in that game, 7 of 10, so he's not taking outside shots.
Yep.
He's getting to the rim. And when Canisius does that, including Logan's going strong to the rim, they're so much better. When they don't get carried away with hanging around at the three-point line, they're really tough to guard.
Anthony Johnson off the mark. He gets it back. He is by far the biggest man in the paint, and he should be able to do a lot of that tonight.
Oh, he's just padding stats right now. Misses shot, go get it. A la Moses Malone.
Coming right at you in your living room, Greg Logans. 9-6 Canisius. Back in Albany with Canisius on top 9-6. Early first half of quarterfinal number 3 at the Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships, presented by Pepsi Max. Doug Sherman along with Ron Kennedy. And we bring in the third member of our broadcast, Vin Parisi.
Thanks, Doug. You know, Rob's been alluding to the Canisius post players hanging out on the perimeter, maybe a little bit too much. I talked to the Fairfield coaching staff about that, and they're actually looking forward to pressuring the post players out at the three-point line. Not so much to contest the three-point shot of Simmons and Loggins, but to force them to turn the basketball over. They don't feel that Canisius' post players can penetrate by them. Another way of looking at that aspect of Canisius' offense. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Vin. And, you know, Rob and I, over the last 3 years, have talked a lot about Greg Logans and what he brings to the team and how good he can be. He's very versatile, big inside, one of the wide bodies in the conference, but is capable of knocking down the three-point shot, and sometimes a little too much. But he hits it at 37%, so if you're the coach, do you tell him to stop and just get inside? What do you tell him?
I'd tell him to stop and get inside, because I think he is a handful. And they've got other guys that can knock down threes on the perimeter. It's fine every once in a while when you're trailing on the break, maybe you catch a three, but they run too much offense with him hanging around on the perimeter.
This is Julius Coles, followed by Nickerson. Coles comes off the bench these days for Canisius. He is the second leading scorer on the team and 12th leading scorer in the MAAC at 14 points per game.
And one of the reasons why he's coming off the bench, Tom Parada wants to make sure he's got a little bigger lineup on the floor, but also the fact that Coles, over the last 5 games, shooting it at just 28% from the field and just 5 of 24 from beyond the three.
Ryan Olander off the Fairfield bench now. This is Olander swinging the ball to Nickerson. Needham, the rookie of the year in the conference, misfires. Trying to track down Turner from behind. He does and knocks it clear and out of bounds. Let's take a look at our coaching matchup, brought to you by Anaconda Sports, home of the Rock. And we start with Tom Parada, 1991 Fordham graduate, who, by the way, is in his 14th MAAC tournament. 4 as a player at Fordham, 6 as an assistant at Niagara, and now 4 as head coach at Canisius. And this is the 15th time in the last 21 years that the MAAC has held its postseason tournament here in this building. Once called the Knickerbocker Arena, then the Pepsi Arena, and now the Times Union Center.
You see, one thing, when he takes threes, you don't have offensive rebounds, because he's a guy that can go get it off the glass, but when he's hanging around on the perimeter, I think that helps the defense.
Anthony Johnson fouled on the shot, and he will go to the line. There you see Ed Cooley in year number 4 at Fairfield.
And you can't blame him if he's a little bit more subdued today. He was in the hospital yesterday, had a stomach virus, and wasn't sure whether or not he's going to be able to coach this game. So he's just happy that he's part of our Rock Coaches matchup today.
We have seen from time to time over the years, and this year we had St. Peter's head coach John Dunn have to miss a game with a stomach bug, and from time to time that happens. We saw the University of Connecticut have to go without Jim Calhoun again this year for a number of games and try and steady the ship, and even though Coach Cooley clearly is not feeling just right now, just based on his body language, it certainly makes a difference for the players to have him there.
He looked like a player late in the game just before he was kind of bent over and grabbing onto his knees. But one thing about Ed Cooley, he's a tough guy. And one of the reasons why his team has been able to fight their way through so many injuries is because of the type of mentality that he has instilled in his players. Don't worry about it. Let's just go ahead. And when they lost Warren Edney early in the season, when they lost as well Greg Nero, when as the season was going on they lost Darrell Hawkins, it never was woe is me. It's like, here's who we got, let's just go play.
Here's Elshwan Himes, a freshman point guard from Syracuse in the ball game.
Got to keep an eye on him. Had a career high 11 last night in the first round game. Wow, how is that no whistle?
A lot of contact. Got to shoot it up with a shot clock at 2. Easy block for Ivanovic, knowing Turner was coming at him. And no basket. Shot clock violation. And so Fairfield gets it back.
Oh, Frank Turner, great play. Ball fakes, gets the defender in the air. The defender's jumping into him. He creates contact. You absolutely got to get that whistle. Tom Parada was explaining that to the officials on the way back. And Turner leads the MAAC in visits to the foul line. I mean, even though he is 5'10", and at times maybe a generous 5'10", he's got a knack for finding contact.
Olander off the mark. Nickerson trying to go up over one of the great shot blockers in the MAAC. Can't do it. A little farther away, Lyndon Jordan finds his comfort zone and has 2 points.
Remember last year, Lyndon Jordan had a terrific game in the quarterfinals against Manhattan with 15 points. So every once in a while, you got a guy who plays well come tournament time.
Himes off the mark. Yeah, Jordan's one of those guys who has been a role player for his first couple of years at Fairfield. Coach Cooley expects him to continue to evolve into more of a prominent part of the Fairfield lineup. And he has done that at times this season.
And Canisius has good size in this zone defense. You'll see them mix out of the man, play a decent amount of zone.
Tough spot for Olander to give Ivanovic the ball along the baseline. And Fairfield fortunate to get the foul call against the Griffs. Tied early on with a spot in the MAAC semifinals on the line. We're back at the Times Union Center in Albany. Canisius and Fairfield tied at 9 early in our third quarterfinal ball game. If you're between the ages of 5 and 12, make sure to sign up for the MAAC Dance Clinic Sunday, March 7th. That's tomorrow here at the Times Union Center from 11 a.m. to noon. Participants in the clinic will perform during halftime of the women's championship game. To register or for more information, log on to MAACsports.com. Derek Needham, Mike Ivanovic, Colin Nickerson, Ryan Olander, and Lyndon Jordan, the 5 on the floor for the Fairfield Stags. Here is Olander with a big height advantage. Misses the first time and then has it stripped away by Turner, but Jordan's able to track it down for Fairfield.
And those are shots that Olander's got to be able to convert. You get the ball that deep, you got to be able to score.
Needham on the board for the first time here tonight.
And Needham's got good range. He'll keep you honest. Nearly 53s on the season.
Stags on the 8-0 run to take this lead at 12-9. Jordan called for the hand check. He can't believe it.
Now Needham, as we said, he's got terrific range. Look at his upper body strength. He doesn't play like a freshman, doesn't act like a freshman, and certainly doesn't look like a freshman. Physically ready to compete at this level right from the start.
Canisius has gone cold, having missed its last 5 shots from the floor, and that will continue as Himes shuffled his feet, actually dragged his pivot foot, and is called for traveling.
And turnovers have been a problem all season long for Canisius. They average nearly 15 per game, 9th in the MAAC. See Fairfield 3 turnovers. How about in their win against Canisius earlier this year? Turned it over just 2 times in a 2-point ball game. They've got 4 already, doubled that number up in the early going.
Coles trying to come up with the steal and the 3-point shot. Couldn't make the shot. And now he is called for being out of bounds, although he may have been aided in his effort to hit that sideline. Anthony Johnson comes back into the game for Fairfield. and Ivanovic goes out. So the young man who was on the first team all conference replaces the 6th man of the year in Ivanovic. Ivanovic leads the MAAC in 3-point shooting percentage, 46%, but at 6'8", he's able to do other things in this Fairfield lineup. Jordan, well short, that's an air ball. Here comes Turner, senior point guard out of Atlantic City, off to Coles, and an offensive foul with Needham standing his ground.
Oh, Needham did a great job getting back after the bad miss at the other end, moving his feet and getting terrific position. This is an easy one. Chest to chest right here. He's got the position. Bang, send it the other way. Good call.
First foul on Coles as Needham, the rookie of the year, takes the ball and dribbles into the front court.
And Needham's a guy who's put up great numbers at this level, and you can see that he's got the ability to play at the next level and at another level. There's certainly a guy, you look at him, say, how would he do in the Big East or ACC? He's a little undersized, but he makes up for that with a great combination of strength and quickness.
Needham is listed at 5'11", 180, a freshman from Dalton, Illinois, who starred at De La Salle Institute on the south side of Chicago, and he is in many ways mature beyond his years, not just on the basketball floor, but in school and in life. His father died a year and a half ago after years of fighting the ill effects of diabetes. And Derek, who was extremely close to his father, his dad was at every ball game as he grew up in the Chicago area. Derek had the opportunity to take time off from school or from basketball, chose not to for either, and has soldiered on and really shows that, well, he's only a freshman in college, but he, as Ed Cooley will tell you, acts and presents himself much more like a seasoned adult.
And we've talked about it every time we've done his games. In addition to those gaudy numbers, and those are gaudy numbers, especially for a freshman point guard who's on the floor all the time and has the ball in his hands, his presence on the floor is what's so impressive. And his teammates certainly feed off of his leadership and his maturity that you were just talking about.
And Rob, from your days as a player and as a coach, you can talk about the fact that, sometimes you can just sense a player you're on the floor with immediately has it. And his upperclassmen teammates, from the point where he showed up at Fairfield over the summer, recognized this young man has it, and they turned over the keys to the car to him very willingly. They understood that this is the young man who can lead us, and he has done just that. Nice job to save it right there to Crawford.
So many little things that he does, and it's hard for a freshman to be the unquestioned leader on a team. That takes a special freshman. He is a special freshman.
And it takes special teammates like Anthony Johnson to seed that to him and to understand that it's better to have the point guard lead. And in spite of the odds, Needham, as a point guard, second team all-conference, could have made first team. And he holds the freshman scoring record in university history after passing Joe DeSantis, who had held the mark since the mid-'70s.
That was a nice set on the screen roll, dive into the post, and a terrific feed on that wraparound bounce pass into the post by Sean Crawford. Remember, Ed Cooley, a longtime assistant at Boston College, and they run the flex. Those monster numbers in that last weekend. But a big part, you go all the way back to Tom Davis and running that flex, and Gary Williams, that curl pass into the post, reaching around and making the bounce pass. Always a big staple to those teams that have run the flex.
Elton Frazier misses on one of the threes, and Nickerson pulls it down.
Yeah, nice box out by Nickerson to keep Logan's off the backboards.
Goldsberry the last to touch. Nice job by Anthony Johnson to point out to the official what had just occurred. And so Fairfield keeps the ball.
The old Georgetown trick, right? As soon as the ball goes out, point in your direction.
Yep.
Works every once in a while.
If it works just once a game, you've gotten away with something, so keep doing it. Olander out. Catch and shoot in the corner off the inbound. Nothing but net for number 3, the freshman star for the Stags, Derek Needham.
He's got a quick release. He only needs a little bit of life.
Goldsberry killed his dribble.
And Logan's, how about Crawford hanging on for dear life in the post?
Logan's on the reverse. The block once, but Johnson couldn't stop the putback.
And that's why you put him in the post. Even though he misses the first shot, You get an offensive rebound. Here's a post guy who's way more comfortable out on the three-point line.
After being shut out in the regular season finale, Ivanovic on the board here tonight with under 8 minutes remaining in the first half, and Fairfield on a roll with a 7-point lead.
Well, here's Logan's attacking the rim, and when he's inside, even though Anthony Johnson, a great defensive play to come up with the first block, Logan's able to finish it inside. He's another guy who's always played well in the MAAC tournament. Came in averaging 13 and 8 in his first 2 years inside the MAAC tournament. 4 games. Had a good game yesterday with another double-double.
And now with that blocked shot, Anthony Johnson had moved into number 2 on the all-time Fairfield list. He had been tied with Harold Brantley, class of 91. With Dengai as the all-time record holder. If you are between the ages of 6 and 16, make sure to register from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. tomorrow, March 7th at Albany City Hall for the MAAC Bounce to the Arena. Participants will receive a basketball that they will bounce along a planned route from Albany City Hall down here to the Times Union Center. Participants also will receive admission to the Women's Championship game. For more information, log on to MAACsports.com. Well, that last bucket by Canisius, as we have a foul called inside against Fairfield, had snapped a 7-minute drought without a basket for the Griffs. Ed Cooley looks for an explanation. His club up by 7. We're back in Albany with Fairfield leading Canisius 18-11, 7:48 remaining in the first half. And we have already seen Ryder and Siena advance to the semifinals tomorrow. Doug Sherman along with Rob Kennedy and Vin Parisi at the Times Union Center in Albany. We had a crowd earlier today of 8,914 for our afternoon session. Not nearly that big a crowd here tonight. And we have one more ball game to follow this one. Scheduled for a 10 o'clock tip between the number 3 seed Iona and the number 6 seed Niagara. Goldsberry, Himes, Turner, Logans, and Vasquez Simmons on the floor for the Griffs. Here's Himes. A little strong on that shot. Lyndon Jordan pulls down the rebound.
And Jordan pulled down the rebound because Ivanovic did his job by blocking out. You know, rebounding isn't just about the guy that goes and gets the basketball. It's making sure that you check guys out so that they can't go rebounding.
After a quick start to the ball game at the offensive end, Canisius has cooled considerably. Turner trying to turn that around, his first field goal of the night.
And when he turns the corner and gets into the lane, good things happen.
Well, he is one of only 3 players in the NCAA this year, averaging 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. The others, Vernon Teal of Loyola Marymount and a guy named Evan Turner at Ohio State. Anthony Johnson turns and scores.
Yeah, Turner, the guy, Evan Turner, who pretty much everybody now saying going to be the National Player of the Year, and why not? Coming off that injury, he has been spectacular for the Buckeyes.
And if he hadn't gotten hurt, would the Buckeyes be a number 1 seed?
Well, I think you can make a case. I think you can still make a case that they're still alive for a potential number 1 seed if they're able to win the Big Ten championship. When you look at pretty much 3 top seeds look like they're already locked up, and then a number of teams that are still alive for potentially that 4th number 1 seed. You got to figure the Buckeyes are one of those teams.
Well, if we had to put the 4 number 1 seeds right now as we sit here in Albany at 8:32 on Saturday night, who would the 4 be, Rob?
Well, you can't do it yet because you got to see what happens. If Duke wins the ACC tournament, I say it's Duke. If all of a sudden Kansas State wins the Big 12 tournament, it's going to be Kansas State. And if both those teams don't win the tournament, and now all of a sudden maybe it's either Purdue or Ohio State win the Big Ten tournament, then they end up being the 4th number 1 seed. And that's the great thing coming down, still locked at play. Not just for teams like inside the MAAC where win, and that's your probably only way of getting into the NCAA tournament, but still for seeding going on.
Foul on Goldsberry. Syracuse, by the way, the top-ranked team in the country, lost to Louisville this afternoon as they shut down Freedom Hall. at least as a basketball venue for the University of Louisville.
Just as long as your alma mater doesn't play Louisville, they're fine.
Yeah, they've been swept. They lost to Rick Pitino's club at the Carrier Dome earlier this year, and then so they've got 2 of their 3 losses at the hands of Louisville. Does that loss impact their stay as a #1 seed at this point?
No, not as the #1 seed, as the #1 team in the country. Yes, I expect Kansas, if they're able to win against Missouri, to go back up to the #1 spot. And what's interesting, everybody gets caught up in #1 seeds. Remember, there's no difference between the 4th and 5th seed. So if you're the last #1 or the first #2 seed, you end up playing each other. I remember back a couple of years ago when Billy Packer went nuts when St. Joe's ended up getting a #1 seed. He thought it should be Oklahoma State. Well, ended up being in the same bracket as a #2 seed. Oh, by the way, they met in a regional final. It was one of the classic games of all time. And you couldn't tell which team was better. Oklahoma State hit the shot at the, coming down the stretch to win it against Jameer Nelson's team. Let them go play. Every once in a while, you're going to throw bracketology out and just go play basketball.
Strong move by Nickerson, the other freshman guard from Chicago, and he has a chance for a 3-point play.
Well, Nickerson's been playing good basketball, and he's got terrific confidence coming down the stretch. Right from the start of the season, Ed Cooley kept saying, I think you're going to really like Colin Nickerson. He's a guy that's got good size. He's got a way about him. Certainly, Ed Cooley and his staff went into Chicago and came out with 2 pretty darn good players.
Derek Needham out of De La Salle Institute, and Nickerson from Waukegan, Illinois. And Nickerson able to sneak one of the MAAC Rookie of the Week awards from his teammate in February. Other than that, it's pretty much been all Needham all year. 10 Rookie of the Week awards for Needham, and that broke the all-time season record held by Lionel Simmons, arguably the greatest player in conference history. Not arguably, he was the greatest player.
No argument with that one.
National Player of the Year his senior season 20 years ago. Hard to believe, back in the 89-90 season.
And Miss Linda Jordan, he was wide open cutting to the basket.
Anthony Johnson kicks it to the corner. Nickerson puts it on the floor. Needham trying for another 3-point shot, and he's got it.
It's just great offense right there. Probing, putting the ball to the floor, not settling for the first shot on the kick out, and putting the defense on their heels, forcing them to close out not once, not twice, but by the time you make the extra pass, nobody's there to go get a hand in the face.
Fairfield on a 20-4 run. Logans creates the contact, goes to his strong hand, which is the left hand, but he couldn't convert.
Logans is winded right now. And there, Anthony Johnson was sitting inside. I'm surprised they didn't force feed him.
Well, while Canisius late last night was playing a first-round game, Fairfield presumably was resting comfortably in their hotel. Follow dunk by Olander, and clearly the Stags have more energy here tonight.
And when Olander can do that and play tough and not hang around on the perimeter, he is a very talented big guy.
6'11" sophomore from Mansfield, Connecticut with the follow dunk as we take another look at the freshman to freshman for the Stags.
And that was the end of a terrific half-court offensive possession by the Stags. And then Olander, he's a guy who, you watch him play and you say, why doesn't he do more? And at times it's not just fans sitting there. At times it's Ed Cooley wondering why he doesn't do more. Early on in his freshman year, later on in his freshman year, started to show you glimpses that maybe he could make a big step in his sophomore season. I made the analogy last year that maybe he could be a Ryan Rossiter, a guy who kind of, was running around, getting his hands on basketballs, that kind of stuff as a freshman. Whether or not he would make a big jump hasn't necessarily happened here in his sophomore season. The one thing he doesn't have is Rossiter's nose for the basketball. That time he showed a little nose for the ball as he went and got it on the offensive glass.
Well, as recently as the regular season finale against Niagara last Sunday, Olander, no points, 1 rebound, only 6 minutes.
Yep, and he's had some good games, and he's had some no-show games. That's what he's got to work on. Physically, he's got to become a little bit stronger to make him a little tougher. And when you're a little tougher physically, a lot of times that helps you be a little bit more mentally tough.
Well, he's banging inside now with Gracius just off the Canisius bench. Young man who's had a couple of nice performances late in the year and earning more playing time for Tom Parada here in March. When you talk about that nose for the basketball, here's the lob that goes over the head of Nickerson. Needham turns it over. And we'll talk more about a nose for the basketball when we come back. 3:02 remaining in the first. Tom Parada's Griffs have gone cold. Use a pedicure. Back in Albany, Canisius down 28-13 in our third quarterfinal. Don't know about the nails on the Stag, although I guess those would be hooves in there. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. The MAAC All-Decade team. Day. Yes. So we've got time to tell you again about the All-Decade team in the MAAC. It's been announced. And fans, log on to Facebook.com/MAAC Sports to vote for who you think is the MAAC Player of the Decade. Nominees include Brian Dukes of Canisius and Anthony Johnson of Fairfield, who we are watching here tonight. And Ali says, thanks for the shout out from earlier. We talked about Ali in one of our earlier quarterfinal games in the afternoon session.
That's multitasking, watching the game and as well being on Facebook.
Well, for people these days, that is just a way of life. Under 2.5 minutes remaining in the first half. All Fairfield after a quick start by Canisius. Ivanovic high-low inside to Olander, and he just overpowers Gracius with a chance for three.
Well, terrific execution, getting the ball into the high post. Always a soft spot against the 2-3 zone. You see the zone for Canisius get extended, and that play is made because Ivanovic puts the ball to the floor. The bounce pass is how you're able to get it inside against the zone D.
This Canisius team having won 15 regular season games, the most for a Griffins team since 2001. And they've won their most league games with 8 since 2005. In fact, this year they have more league wins than combined their last 2 years. But yet they have come out here tonight very flat. All right, let's send it over to Vin for more.
Thanks, Doug. You know, that last play just epitomized the huddle that Tom Parada just had. He talked about defensive transition, but not just running back. He talked about not letting Ivanovic trail at the top of the key, but most importantly, not letting Anthony Johnson and Olander and these post players outrun them and get deep early post-ups in the paint in defensive transition. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Vin. Coach Parada trying to figure out how to turn this game around. Down 31-13, under 2 minutes remaining in the first half.
Well, there once again, getting the ball into the high post. The top players of that zone, you got to pinch in to keep it out of the high post. If you don't put it there, then you don't get that high-low action.
Olander stepping in and stealing the dangerous pass.
A good hustle to get back. See Fairfield screening out of the zone offense, and by doing that you get good ball movement. So many times teams are just complacent, run zone offense where you don't screen and you don't get the ball into the post, but when you do screen, it's really difficult for the zone to make that next rotation.
How about the seal, as you see a 15-0 run now by Anthony Johnson. Not just the dunk, but the ability to carve out the space and hold off his defender to make sure that over-the-top pass got to him.
Yeah, you can't score it if you don't get it. And too many post players lose track of the fact that posting up and carving that space is as important as your post moves.
And going and getting a pass and not just assuming it's going to get to you.
Yeah, you got to get down. You got to get small to be big. You got to sit down and then you got to go get the basketball.
Gracious no, and the struggles at the offensive end for the Golden Griffins continue. Needham turns it into two at the other end.
Right now the Stags just threatening to run away with this one. I really thought the Canisius was going to come out with a little fight. Well, he only scored 13 points. Not much fighting you so far in this first half.
Well, they handled Marist in their first round game late last night, 72-54. But certainly none of that same fire and energy for the better part of this first half against Fairfield in the quarterfinals.
Well, Fairfield doing it at both ends, executing against the zone defense. Good patience. Not going to be able to stop that if you don't stop him from catching it. Because once he does, you're in trouble. That's a man amongst boys in the post.
Well, coming up on the MAAC halftime report, we'll of course have our first half recap. We'll also have an interview with Anthony Peanut Johnson and our first half highlights and statistics. Anthony, an interesting story, a 6'8" senior from Lake Wales, Florida, who last year missed a good chunk of the season with a life-threatening condition where he had blood clots in his lungs. He was playing, he was sluggish for 5 or 6 games. The coaches couldn't figure it out. And finally he was diagnosed, and it was a life-threatening situation and career-threatening in terms of his basketball, and he wasn't sure he'd be able to actually play his senior season, and he finally got medical clearance late in the summer.
And he's made the most of it. And think about that. You know, last year you're sick, you think you got the flu, and the next thing they say you got blood clots in your lungs. I mean, that's got to throw you off.
So we will hear more from Anthony Johnson, also a young man who, during his high school days down in Florida, had his high school gymnasium floor destroyed by a run of hurricanes and fires. You know, they're in Hurricane Alley down there in Florida. Hurricane Charlie, Hurricane Francis, and Hurricane Jean back in '04 wiped out his gymnasium. All sorts of interesting stories with Anthony Peanut Johnson. First team all-conference in the MAAC, and he will be part of our halftime report, which is coming up. And he and the Stags head into the locker room with a comfortable 35-14 lead. And I'm guessing Coach Cooley's feeling a little bit better than he was about 45 minutes ago.
Got to be feeling pretty good about their defense. Hold Canisius to just 14 points in the first half. Got ourselves a football score here at halftime.
That score at the intermission, Fairfield 35, Canisius 14. We will be back with the MAAC halftime report here in Albany, New York, right after this.
At Fairfield University, we explore big questions, complicated ideas, and unlimited possibilities.
In a community of learners representing diverse beliefs, opinions, and experiences.
Actively engaged in a caring, supportive, and fun community.
Our education prepares us to be thoughtful, global citizens, serving the common good.
At Fairfield University, you will get an inspiring education.
For an inspired life.
It's a college on a quiet campus with the heartbeat of Manhattan.
It's something new. It's something old. You smell pastrami and you smell roses.
It's got everything you could possibly want.
Even if you're not sure what you want, it's the best of all worlds. Manhattan College.
A world-class faculty and student body, minutes from the center of everything.
So come, be a part of it. Manhattan College, the best of all worlds.
I love basketball. Someday, I know I'm going to end up in the front office.
I'm kind of a huge nerd. I really love accounting.
Niagara didn't just offer me an opportunity. They helped me find my calling.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Check it out at niagara.edu.
Niagara University. Education that makes a difference.
The long rebound and presence of mind to turn the offensive rebound into a quick assist.
You know, by the way, Shymeek Johnson not in the starting lineup to begin the second half. He's been replaced by Colin Nickerson. Goldsberry. Logan's denied by Johnson. Another big block shot.
And that's where you got to be able to finish with either hand. When at it in his strong hand, which is his left hand, you got to take it with the right and force him to come across your body to get a block shot.
Well, you know, Anthony Johnson, along with Sienna's Ronald Moore, I think have the two best smiles in the league. Both made first team all conference, and we have seen that smile on Anthony Johnson quite a lot here this evening. And there is another reason to smile for Peanut Johnson.
That's a man's rebound right there.
Well, I would be interested to see him with that physique and the physicality with which he brings to the court, how he would compete night in and night out against a Power 6 conference opponent. You know, if he were to be in the Big East, like his old high school teammate Dominique Jones at South Florida, would he be able to translate some of the things he does here every night at that level?
That'd be interesting. The way that he's played coming down the stretch, you think he might be able to. He's a guy who right now scores a lot just because of his power and his skill set, quite honestly, to be able to score it inside against other guys as big and strong would have to improve. He's not going to be able to bull his way right to the front of the rim going against the same type of strong athletes night in and night out, so the way that he is able to do here in the MAAC.
Well, he's certainly taken advantage lately. Has his season scoring average up to 15.6, his rebounding average at 9.9, and for that, a first-team all-conference selection earlier this week.
It was interesting as well when we saw that package. You saw his body last year. Boy, did he work on his upper body strength. I mean, he was a big, strong guy last year. But when you look at that video compared to him here this year, he had a good off-season in the weight room.
Well, he is the second all-time shot blocking leader in school history, and there's a big block shot on Logan's, who, as you said, Rob, should have gone up with the right hand as opposed to his natural left hand to try and avoid that block shot. Johnson misses on the jump hook. You know, Johnson presumably spent a lot of time in the weight room over the summer while he was wondering if he could play basketball again, because he wasn't playing basketball. He had to spend more time on other things and getting his body right, and he certainly did a good job of that.
Perfect example of turning a negative situation into a positive. And so many guys on a redshirt year, his much different, not really a true redshirt year, but anytime that you're injured, you got to use that time to try and make yourself better, whether it's working on your skills, working on your body. Can't be woe is me. And again, I go back to how Ed Cooley has attacked the injury bug that they've had each of the last couple of years. Most guys, the head would go down and say, my goodness gracious, what if we had these? You've never heard that one time from Ed Cooley. And I think his team feeds off that.
Yep. Again, they're without Greg Nero and Warren Edney for the season because of illness and injury. And Urel Hawkins, a junior from Apex, North Carolina, averaging 15 points per game this year, out with a knee injury, has bone chips. As we take another look at Logan's knocking down the three, but for Fairfield to just continue to persevere, like you say, they follow the lead of Ed Cooley.
Yeah, so many times we always talk about a team taking on the personality of their coach. Perfect example. And we've seen it the last couple of years. And what's interesting, going back to Thursday at the award ceremony, whoever they were going to announce as the coach of the year, there were a ton of guys that you could, if their name was called, you wouldn't have been surprised. And certainly Kevin Willard, a very deserving recipient of that. I mean, they were picked preseason to finish in 9th. They finished in 3rd. You make a case that Ed Cooley, you can make a case for Fran McCaffrey. You win 17 games, set a league record. Make a case for John Dunn and what he's done to turn the program around. But certainly what Ed Cooley's done over the last 2 years, I don't know that anything outside of maybe Sienna's dominant run has been more impressive inside the MAAC.
And there's no reason to think it'll slow down because this roster is so loaded with underclassmen. Freshmen and sophomores dominate other than Anthony Johnson. Future is bright, not only this weekend, but down the road for Ryan Olander and the Fairfield Stags, on top by 18. Our Pepsi Max players of the game, clearly Jill and Meredith from the MAAC office, serving food on a long day here at the Times Union Center.
Those were the highlights that you were looking at halftime there that came a little late. How about this? I mean, what's better than that? Got a monitor. The truck doesn't get food, but they take care of us. Huh?
No, our producer Steve Fennick is wasting away back there in the truck from what we're hearing.
They've been at it longer than you and I have. I mean,
yeah.
They had the 2 women's games as well. Long day for our entire crew. And we've still got more to come.
I don't even want to think about the time that the crew got here this morning. And they continue, and we will likely be on the air well past midnight. So congratulations to all of them for making it through. And thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks for the food here. And we apologize to the audience while we eat.
We'll be okay. We'll stop now for a little while.
All right.
When we go to commercial, though, we're going to get busy quickly. There's Needham with the mismatch. Had the speed advantage and went right at Vasquez Simmons.
Well, Turner, who has had such a quiet evening, atypically takes it right to the bucket. He's now got 7.
So a couple of threes from Logans, and then Turner attacking the rim, trying to get themselves back into the ball game.
Well, down by 13 with plenty of time on the clock. Logan's firing away.
Well, there you go.
Down by 10.
So much for putting Logans in the post. Maybe you just want to throw him outside. Maybe a little bit of fool's gold, but they'll take any kind of gold they can get right now. Well, Frank Turner's the guy that gets them running right by the Fairfield defense, scoring it, and then finding his teammates. Logan's getting them right back in the ball game.
At St. Peter's College, success is a team effort. St. Peter's College, education one student at a time.
Back in the capital city of New York State, Fairfield leading Canisius. Well, it's down to 10, 39-29. Let's send it back over to the third member of our team, Vin Parisi.
Thanks, Doug. Ed Cooley talking to his team here as they've relinquished a little bit of this lead. Canisius has cut it to 10. He told them, don't panic, but get the basketball inside. He wants to overpower them on offense. He wants to get the ball into the paint. On defense, he told them to toughen up, start getting some stops, but also look for Fairfield to start switching some of those high Canisius pick and rolls where the post players have been stepping back and making threes. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Vin. Canisius on a 15-4 run, including hitting 6 of 8 from the floor here in the second half. That after scoring just 14 points the entire first half. Needham, no. Tracking it down again, though, along the baseline. The shot clock did not reset, even though I believe it hit the rim. Now it's reset. It took quite a while to get it reset.
And I think because of that, Jordan looked up, saw the shot clock winding down, and may have taken a shot that he wouldn't have taken had there been a proper reset.
Fortunately, though, Fairfield now gets a fresh shot clock, and they didn't lose the possession because of that.
Remember, trying to establish Johnson inside. They go right where Ed Cooley wanted the basketball.
Foul before the shot, so no basket for Anthony Johnson, a non-shooting foul. Second foul called against Julius Coles, and the fourth against Canisius here in the second half. Ivanovic, the sharpshooting 6th man for Fairfield, doesn't take the shot. Here he is with it once again. His entry pass kicked by Frank Turner.
And once again on the screen, Anthony Johnson sitting down, facing up. Ivanovic would have been much better if he throws the ball to the wing and allow Needham to try and make that entry pass. Can't force it if it's not there.
6 minutes gone here in the second half. Fairfield looking to punch its ticket into the MAAC semifinals tomorrow night. Big defensive lapse, leaving Ivanovic that open, and he couldn't connect. Quite a turnaround here in the second half for Canisius, already with as many field goals in the first 6 minutes plus of the second half as they had in 20 minutes in the first half.
And much like we saw in our first quarterfinal game where Ryder had their way, but wasn't able to throw a knockout punch against St. Peter's. Much of the same here. As bad as Canisius has been offensively throughout that entire first half, the fact that they didn't allow Fairfield to just run and hide, keeping their score down as well, all of a sudden they're right back in the ball game.
Good ball movement to find the point guard Needham. Off the mark, Logans rips it down with his right hand.
So Fairfield gets 2 terrific looks each of the last 2 possessions, but they come up empty. Sometimes it's as simple as whether or not you make or miss shots.
A lot of times, Rob, isn't it tough for the team that jumps out to quite the big lead and the seemingly decisive lead early to keep that focus?
Yeah, no question about that, but you've got to be able to do it. And you got to know that, hey, look, Canisius not going to go away, and we've seen that. I said I was surprised that they didn't show us a little bit more fight in that first half. Well, they saved up the fight. Little rope-a-dope going on because now they're coming out and they're playing aggressive.
Needham with a big answer. He's got 14, and the lead is back up to 9.
They got to be careful about trying to keep it out of Turner's hands right off the initial pass, because what it allows him to do is get in a full sprint. So you're up in denial, they throw the ball to the wing, and here he comes running right at you.
Very quickly, 13 points for the 5'10 senior from Atlantic City, New Jersey. He is the 4th all-time leading scorer in Canisius history, closing on Craig Wise, class of 95. He is now 32 points behind catching Craig Wise. One and done again, and Coles with a rebound.
And another terrific look. Great ball movement, the reversal, getting themselves another wide open three. They've just missed a couple of good looks.
Turner churning it up. As we mentioned, he's one of just 3 players in the entire country averaging at least 15 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds per game, along with Ohio State's Evan Turner, no relation, and Vernon Teal of Loyola Marymount. There goes Turner again. Working on Jordan, gets past him, left hand, the shot, and they're going to call traveling.
Wow, Tom Parada is upset, and I don't blame him. Turner can't believe it. He kept the basketball alive. Frank Turner doing his job to try and keep his team in the ballgame. He's got great speed, quickness, and able to finish. Right now, the Golden Griffins have themselves back in the ballgame because of Frank Turner.
Side of the Times Union Center in Albany, and Canisius has completely flipped the script with a 21-7 start to the second half to get right back into the ball game. And let's go inside the play, Rob.
Well, you got to pick your poison a little bit. You want to try and keep the basketball out of Frank Turner's hands, so you get up and deny. Freeze it right here. So by now, instead of forcing it directly to Turner, by passing the ball off to the wing, now here he goes on a full head of steam, and as he gets going, all of a sudden your defense in bad position. So you come up, you overplay, and it backfires. You got to figure out a way to slow Frank Turner down. Trying keeping the ball out of his hands is a good idea, but if you don't execute, here he comes with that head of steam.
Anthony Johnson, no. Coles the rebound, and the Griffs continue to try and get themselves back in the ball game, led by Frank Turner's 13 points.
En fuego, no question about it. Canisius getting things going on the offensive end. 9 of 11 so far this half, after showing us nothing like that in the first half. 14 points in the first half, and all of a sudden you look up, they've got 21 points here inside of the first 9 minutes of the second half.
Quiet night for Sean Crawford. No points after having scored a career-high 25 points in the finale, including 20 in the second half and overtime last weekend against Niagara. Tomas Vasquez-Simmons travels back over to Fairfield. Stags have Needham, Olander, Anthony Johnson, Nickerson, and Jordan on the floor. Fairfield comes in with a record of 20-9. They went 13-5 during the regular year in MAAC play and earned the number 2 seed. Frazier clears the Nickerson miss.
Now miss after miss, but where are they from? From 3. So instead of pounding the basketball inside like Ed Cooley wanted, they found open threes, but they've not made them.
Somehow, Pierce Frazier tipped that ball in.
No longer fool's gold, it's pure gold as their posts are stepping out, stretching the defense and knocking down threes. Many of those 10 second half field goals from beyond the arc.
Another 3 for Fairfield. This one goes in for Needham, who now has 17.
So after a sluggish, slow first half offensively, both teams picking up the pace.
Nickerson took it away from Turner, quickly up ahead. Johnson had it go off his fingertips and out of bounds. Nice job by Vasquez-Simmons.
Well, Needham does a good job of utilizing the first screen. Nothing there, so he uses the second screen. Hides behind it, and when that second screen is Anthony Johnson, takes up a lot of space. He's able to hide behind it and get the good look.
John Hughes, the official, over to the scorer's table as Tom Parada waits for an explanation. Apparently they were credited with 3, even though it clearly was a tip-in that should have been 2 points. So they've gotten that straightened out, and it reflects that on the score now with it 45-37. Logans, Frazier, Coles, Vasquez Simmons, and Turner on the floor for the Golden Griffins in their road gold uniforms. Canisius, the number 7 seed. Turner got himself free. How about the blind reverse? 6 points now for the junior out of Corcoran High School in Syracuse. Elton Frazier with another acrobatic dunk.
Give me it. Down throws Frazier. My goodness gracious, did he sneak that one? Holy cow.
A blind reverse dunk in traffic.
I got to see this one. Holy cow. And that is a highlight film. That's a potential top 10 play, and he's had a couple on the season.
Well, we've had a couple of beauties just in this ballgame. Anthony Johnson had nowhere near as acrobatic as that, but no less impressive in the first half. But that one certainly is going to win any award here tonight. A blind reverse in traffic. Needham ran into a brick wall named Logan's, and Needham comes away limping.
But Logan's comes away with the foul. I'll tell you what, Needham got away with one because he was out of control. You don't see that often from him, even though he's so quick and certainly probes and pushes the pace. He usually is under control. That was a bailout.
Second foul on Logan's. Ivanovic, Jordan, Anthony Johnson, Nickerson, and Needham, who continues to favor that leg as play continues.
That's good inside out.
Back inside, and Anthony Johnson draws the third foul on Logan's.
And that's the way to repost. Ivanovic wasn't shot ready. You know, he's such a terrific shooter. He's got to get himself ready. As you see, Needham continue to walk gingerly on that ankle. He looked like he turned on the charge. Here's where Needham was out of control. I'll tell you what, send that the other way. I mean, what do you want Logans to do? Leave the court? I mean, I know he's moving, but he's moving back. He's not sliding over. Needham's the guy who is out of control. And on that play, looks like he may have twisted his ankle.
After that made free throw, Anthony Johnson now 2 of 6 from the line. As you see his freshman teammate Needham trying to stay in the ball game. He looks over to his head coach Ed Cooley and reassures him that he's okay to play. 1 out of 2 for Anthony Johnson, who had been shooting the free throws so much better down the stretch in the regular season, had gotten his numbers up, but he has reverted back to form here tonight.
Yeah, you and I saw him in the overtime win at Ryder go 13 of 15 from the foul line. You're right, he had climbed that foul shooting number up to 63%. Coming down the stretch, if they continue to get the ball inside to him, now you got to force him to earn him from the line if he's going to continue to misfire.
Under 8 minutes remaining in regulation. Canisius was dead in the water, down 35-14 at halftime, but have climbed back into the ball game. Needham hits the three-point shot, according to the outside official. And a timeout called, but John Hughes is going to head over. I thought his foot was on the line, but they're going to check as they call the official timeout. And they will get it straightened out. Take a look. That's a 2-point shot to me.
Yep. Not just one toe. Looked like both feet were on the line.
And that's the way I felt it was live. Although the outside official immediately, from his angle, threw up his hand, showing that he felt it was a 3-point shot. So they will decide here which angle is definitive. All right, now we'll take a break while they continue to figure this out and have an answer for you when we come back to the Times Union Center in Albany, New York. Back in Albany, it was a 2-point shot they determined, so 19 points now for Derek Needham, and the Fairfield lead is 48-39. Time now to look at the Pepsi Max Slam of the game, and it is no surprise that Elton Frazier again wears the crown.
And no surprise with this dunk as well. The degree of difficulty on this one would have earned him some good scores in the Olympics. Look at that one. Coming from behind, you've got to be able to get off the ground to get that one down.
He is incredible. 6'5", 208-pound junior out of Corcoran High School in Syracuse. He has made top plays multiple times on ESPN SportsCenter, including the #1 top play back on January 29th with a couple of incredible dunks against Niagara. And I would imagine that on SportsCenter in a couple of hours, you may be seeing Elton Frazier once again on top plays. There he goes again. Anthony Johnson, the rebound. We've talked about it, that in his first 2 years, Frazier played a little bit out of position and also played a little bit out of control, and he seems to have corrected all of that. And not like he's put up prolific numbers this year, but he's been a much better player on a lot of levels this year for Canisius.
And much more comfortable playing the forward spot because it plays to his strengths. Johnson got away with one. He rode Vasquez Simmons off with his strength. He just kind of forearmed him and kept Vasquez Simmons from getting to the basketball.
Needham holds, guarded by Turner. Turner, as a freshman, was the MAAC co-rookie of the year. This year, Derek Needham, the rookie of the year, all by himself. Shot clock down to 5. Nickerson has it blocked out of bounds, so with 4 on the shot clock, the Griffs will hold on to it.
And Fairfield had a couple of opportunities to punch it inside to the big guy, Anthony Johnson. He's sitting in the post. He doesn't get it. Instead, Nickerson trying to force his way along the baseline where he really didn't have anything.
Robert Goldsberry has come back into the game for Canisius, replacing Coles.
And Goldsberry, smart play right there to get himself in. He realized that they were going to try and punch it in to Anthony Johnson off the baseline out of bounds. Good job to get involved.
Well, if you'd like to tweet about that Frazier dunk, you can do so by going to twitter.com/MAACsports. And you can also go there and follow all the latest news and happenings from the MAAC tournament here in Albany and throughout the entire calendar year. Twitter.com/MAACsports. Oh, there's another one. This time, though, it's Vasquez Simmons.
And it's, again, Frank Turner. He doesn't get the basket there, but what he does is he puts pressure on the defense. 2 defenders have to rotate over to try and challenge blocking the shot, and by doing that, there's nobody to block out, and you get the dunk.
Back to a 7-point ball game. Needham picked up his dribble. Inside they go to Anthony Johnson. Nearly stolen by Turner. Needham puts it up and in.
That's a way to bail things out. Had a couple opportunities. Nearly turned it away. But as he's done all season long, the freshman there to clean up other people's mistakes by making a tough shot.
Nickerson picks up his 3rd personal foul as we take another look at Needham.
Yeah, nearly a turnover. Bad pass by Nickerson, but his fellow freshman from the Chicago area there to clean it right up.
Well, Needham is a cool customer. We have seen repeatedly when the shot clock is winding down, he does not panic one iota. Turner right to the rim.
And what he did is a great job of not taking that screen. As you see Needham go down. Remember, he had twisted his ankle earlier.
Good bit of sportsmanship there after the fact from Frank Turner to pat Needham on the backside and encourage him.
Well, high ball screens coming. Great crossover. You see Nickerson, the freshman, cheating to that screen. So Turner just doesn't take it. Instead gets himself right to the rim for the lay-in. You see right here going to challenge it. Anthony Johnson didn't go up and try and block that shot. Oh, well, that one hurts.
Now we see what occurred.
Yep, and that was not intentional.
And Frank's reaction immediately further tells you that, and I agree that as the officials take another look at it, they, I would imagine, will interpret it the way the rest of us in the building did, because it also showed up on the Jumbotron, and you may have been able to hear the groan,
especially from
every
all
guy
all
in
the males in the building. Here's this quickness going. I'm surprised Anthony Johnson didn't try to go challenge that one defensively. And you see right there, Turner. Well, that angle may be a little bit different, but I think Turner just off balance a little bit.
I think he's just thinking about turning tail and trying to intercept a potential inbounds pass. And again, based on Turner's reaction,
I agree. Yep.
It further illustrates to me that it was an inadvertent hand to the midsection. And since Turner is still on the court, I have a feeling that that may be the interpretation of the officials, but they continue to check it over on the other side of the court. Meanwhile, during this break, Canisius head coach Tom Parada and Derek Needham having a little bit of fun over in front of the Canisius bench, which further illustrates that from Needham's perspective, I don't think he believes it was intentional. If he thought it was, I don't know as he would be over there joshing with the head coach from the opposing team. But we will find out. What do you think, Rob?
Well, hard to tell right now.
Can't read John's lips.
Yeah. Tom Parada's reaction. Clearly, they're talking to Tom Parada. And so far, he's taken it pretty well. But I'll tell you what. If they determine that indeed it was more than just accidental, I don't think so.
I would strongly disagree with that if that indeed is the conclusion. Turner is still out on the floor. And I would imagine if the message delivered to Tom Parada was his senior point guard had just been ejected, he'd be a little more upset than he is right now.
But I tell you what, the monitor's there so that you can go find if somebody does something. I think that is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the reaction to everybody. John Hughes went, looked at the monitor. He was able to determine that was intentional. And I don't know how you can see on the monitor intent. His reaction to go try and pick him up right away certainly didn't show that to you. Those two guys gathered right there. I don't think that was necessarily the case.
I'm stunned.
Yeah. And the first angle that you saw, it wasn't there. He was kind of going down. And clearly, this is a potential game changer. Canisius has fought their way all the way back into the ball game because of what Frank Turner has done. Frank Turner has been a model citizen for 4 years for this Canisius program. He's a terrific kid. It's not something that he would do. I'm telling you right now, knowing him as a kid and seeing that video,
not
to come up with that, not a chance.
So for his college basketball career to potentially end like this is a shame.
Absolute shame. And again, the use of the monitor, and we've seen it a lot. Sometimes it really helps officials out. That's another situation where it puts John Hughes in a tough spot. I do not like the overuse of monitors to go see that. And I do not understand for the life of me how you could look at that and come up with it. I'll tell you what, I give Tom Parada a lot of credit for not going crazy because I would lose my mind if I was him. That's bad officiating. I'm sorry. And again, I know it's a tough spot for John Hughes to be in, but that is, it looks maybe a little bit worse there, but when you saw it live, you never would have called that. And that's where you get forced to have to go look at the monitor. I think that's something that the Rules Committee really has to look at for next year. You can't just keep going to the monitor. It causes more harm than good. We've seen it a couple of times in just the games that you and I have done.
So one of the greatest players in the history of Canisius college basketball has his senior year and his career potentially end like that. And not that that should come into play when John Hughes is thinking about it.
I agree.
But from a person sitting and having watched him for 4 years, it is a crying shame.
Because again, how do you determine intent, whether or not that's what he was trying to do? Clearly, he took a shot to the midsection.
Inadvertent.
I think so. I think so.
Was Coach Cooley from the Fairfield bench? Were they calling for it?
No.
I didn't think so either.
And you and I had a situation earlier this season where Ryan Thompson was tossed from a ball game, and again, it was administered the correct way. Ray Perrone was the official on the game, had to go to the monitor because it was a potential elbow. Now, when we saw that one, Ryan Thompson did throw the elbow in that game, and probably by rule needed to be ejected. But he wouldn't have been ejected had they not gone and looked at the monitor.
Correct.
As soon as they got to the monitor, the official's hands were tied. I'm not so sure that John Hughes' hands were tied on that particular situation.
Because I don't think you could make a strong case at all. And again, it's up to interpretation. Everybody sees something different. You could see it differently than I.
Yep.
But we are so in agreement on that there is no way that should have been the conclusion. It's stunning.
And again, I think the Rules Committee has to look at when you're going to go look at the monitor. They were not going to toss him in regular play.
Right.
But as soon as you got yourself to the monitor, when we saw the first replay, I said, yeah, nothing. When I saw the second replay, all of a sudden in my mind, I'm saying, uh-oh. We may get him tossed from the ball game, even though clearly I don't think that's what he was trying to do.
And again, like you say, it's not necessarily a John Hughes problem. It's a bigger problem. That he's put into a situation where he has to make a tough decision. But again, I think had he made the other decision, the one that we would have agreed with, I don't think the Fairfield folks, I don't think Derek Needham, I don't think anybody would have put up a stink. Timeout called with 3:54 remaining in regulation. And with that, Canisius has really had its, leader taken off the floor, the wind taken out of their sails. And so they were cutting into that lead, and now it's back to 11. And if you're Canisius, after having played such a terrific second half led by Frank Turner, now you lose him. What are you going to do?
Well, you got to regroup, but it's completely different as far as how you're going to be able to execute, because he's the guy that gets so much going with his speed in the open floor, being able to turn the corner and get himself into the lane.
Again, he is the all-time school leader in assists, in games played, in minutes played, and he is the 4th all-time leading scorer in school history. So if you're Tom Parada, the guy you have built your program around for your entire 4 years here, the end-all be-all, how on earth do you carry on for the final 5+ minutes?
Yeah, you just got to take a page out of Ed Cooley's book, as he's been able to not, worry about that, but they're totally different. It's one thing to not worry about it and try to just regather and get some enthusiasm, but they don't have a guy that can go be a difference maker on the floor with the basketball in his hand.
Because you've got a starting 2-guard in Robert Goldsberry, who scores only 3 points per game and is completely a complimentary player. And so where do you turn? We'll head to break. Canisius down 11. Welcome back to the Times Union Center in Albany. Fairfield, the number 2 seed, trying to hold off the charge of the 7th-seeded Canisius Golden Griffins, who have had their senior captain, Frank Turner, ejected from the ball game for a shot to the midsection to Fairfield's Derek Needham. And after much debate, he was sent to the locker room for a flagrant, even though you and I don't agree.
Well, I'm not so sure it was intentional, but again, I think John Hughes is put in a tough position, because as soon as they go to the monitor, clearly you saw Frank Turner with the arm out, and he got him. And so the question to me is whether or not he was a little bit off balance and his hand just kind of got him, or whether or not it was done with intent. John Hughes thought that there was no question. He came over at that break, explained to us that he threw a punch to the midsection, and so that's why, as far as executing and administering the game from the official standpoint, he did what he was supposed to. Go to the monitor, see if something happened. But again, I think overuse of the monitor in that situation.
Did use of the monitor right a wrong?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah.
And many times it does, because we saw him go to the monitor, making sure that a signaled 3 was a 2. Foot on the line, scoring situation. And again, there's only certain situations where they can go to the monitor, and clearly timing and scoring are those, as well as trying to figure out if a foul was indeed a flagrant foul, a technical, whether or not a punch was thrown. And so they administered the game the right way. They went to the monitor, but as soon as you got over there, you got yourself a bit of a problem.
Right. We'll take one more look at it. Watch Turner's hand. He clearly did connect. Needham went down.
And when you saw that live there on that angle, it looked like maybe it was indeed intentional. So, again, I think it's just a tough situation. And Frank Turner, as we said, has done so much for this Canisius program, and a tough way to end your career, because that's not what Frank Turner has been all about for Tom Parada. He's been a leader. He's been a guy who's brought it. He's been a guy that, despite the fact that he's played on teams that have not done particularly well, he has always done his best.
Now Julius Coles with a free throw. Canisius had been clawing its way back into the ball game. Gets a pair from the line, and now Eltron Himes replaces Coles.
And now Canisius, if they're going to get themselves back into the ball game, they've got to force turnovers from Fairfield, and can't force easy buckets like that. You got to get up and press, and by doing that, you're gambling. You're gambling that you come up with a turnover. The other end of that gamble is an easy basket.
Johnson now with the 16 points. Three-pointer by Logans. Although now we will again go over to the monitor to see if it was indeed a three-point shot.
Well, Fairfield handling the pressure defense easy. Everybody's sharing the basketball. Last pass, always a bounce pass. Ivanovic has been a factor. Knocked down a couple of threes, but he also shows you that his skills are not just shooting the basketball and passing the basketball as well.
Well, you know, he clearly, from the point where he transferred from Iowa State to the point where now he is a senior, can't really see on that angle.
Tell Goldsberry to duck, maybe we can get a good look.
But maybe this one will tell us. Not so sure that's definitive either. You see John Hughes at the bottom of your screen. He immediately signaled 3. But the official on the other side of the court felt that it warranted another look or 2 or 6.
And here again, use of the monitor. Correct use of the monitor. Go over, make sure it's a 2 or a 3. They're doing their job. John Hughes and Guy Pagano doing the correct thing. But it disrupts the flow of a basketball game. How long are you going to look at it to be able to figure out if it's a 2 or a 3? I think that the NCAA Rules Committee really has to look at how we've gotten so monitor happy in a game of basketball. I mean, you and I see it sometimes. You'll see a timing issue, and here we are blowing it up. I mean, you got to allow some discretion for the officials. I mean, go back, think about how many judgment calls that they have to make. And here we go trying to figure out. I can't tell. You tell me. When they signal 2 or 3, they signal 3. Yep. If they signaled 2, I would have said, yep, either way.
And in his heart of hearts, John may feel the same way right now. It's a flip of the coin.
No, and I go back to that game with Ray Perone, and I talked with Ray after the game. He said, look, there's nothing I can do. That's the rule. I got to go to the monitor to make sure that it's not a situation. But he ruled that a 3, and we go back and we play. So it cuts the lead to 10. But again, they've got to do something with their defense. They've got to get a turnover. You can't come back from 10 down unless the other team obliges.
Needham and Nickerson in the backcourt with Crawford. And there is a near steal by Himes.
They got a good trap. They forced Needham all the way back to the half-court line. Put him in a tough spot, and he nearly turned it over. If there's one king in Derek Needham's armor, it's his ability to turn the basketball over. He forces the action, takes some chances, and by doing that, has a tendency to turn it over.
Foul on the reach-in as Anthony Johnson trying to take it away from Vasquez Simmons. And so Johnson picks up the personal. His 4th. Well, the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship first and second rounds return to the HSBC Arena in Buffalo, March 19th and 21st. For ticket information, log on to ncaa.com/MBB tickets.
And the first time these two teams met in the regular season, it was at the HSBC Arena, was not at the Kessler Center up at Canisius, part of a doubleheader that the MAAC had there, as Iona and Niagara also played in that same venue. And guess what we got coming up next? Niagara, Iona.
Imagine that.
Wow.
I have to correct myself there. As you see, Anthony Johnson with his 5th personal foul, so he is out. And there you see coming up next, Niagara and Iona. Certainly should be an entertaining game, and much like we talked earlier in regards to the Ryder Bronx, the Niagara Purple Eagles are viewed by others around the league as being better than their seed, more dangerous than their seed. And going into that ball game, I don't think Iona feels that much superior to Niagara. A couple of bounces of the ball, and Niagara would have been a much higher seed and certainly a very dangerous and capable team of giving Iona all it can handle. Take a look at our tournament brackets, brought to you by Citizens Bank. There we go. And you see Iona Niagara coming up next. Our first game here today was St. Peter's turning the ball over 16 times in the first half, digging a big hole to Ryder, being able to come back and make a game of it. But ultimately Ryan Thompson and the Bronx prevailed, and then Siena was given fits by Manhattan. And ultimately Alex Franklin with his 23 points and 11 rebounds helped lead the Saints into the semifinal round. In this third quarterfinal, Tom Parato's Canisius Golden Griffins led 9-4, but then went stone cold for the rest of the half, scoring only 5 more points in that first half, and they have yet to fully dig themselves out of the hole.
Now, to beat this trap, you got to put the basketball in the center of the floor. That's right where Mike Ivanovic is. Remember, he handles the basketball extremely well and can pass it out of the high post. They handle the trap, and now you can't give up a foul because the shot clock's down into single digits. Got to get a stop now if you're Canisius. Can't give up. And they gave up.
Crawford with the pass and a terrific catch, adjustment, and lay-in for Olander. Now with just over a minute remaining and a 10-point difference, Fairfield trying to hold on. And the foul at midcourt given by Elton Frazier. Well, the season for Canisius, which as mentioned, 15 wins overall, the most wins for a Canisius team in 9 seasons. And the 8 regular season wins in conference play, the most since 2005, the most in the Tom Parata era. Have certainly laid the groundwork for growth out there in Buffalo.
And certainly a very solid junior class, even though they'll lose their leader, Frank Turner, the guy that really is the guy that makes everything run for them. They still bring back Julius Coles and Elton Frazier and Tomas Vasquez Simmons and Greg Logans, and those juniors, along with Robert Goldsberry, certainly give them a good foundation of senior leadership next year. And if they can get another guy in to run the point and another guy that can stretch defenses out on the perimeter as far as a guard shooting the basketball, well, they could certainly make some noise next year and continue the improvement that we've seen from this season.
Foul on Olander. By the way, Derek Needham, as we see Olander, near his career high, went for 28 points at Niagara back on January 4th. He's got 25 points in a big bounce-back kind of game. We mentioned how poorly he had shot from the floor in the regular season finale, but he has been the offensive catalyst for the Stags here tonight. There is Needham, the Rookie of the Year in the conference, won Rookie of the Week 10 times, besting the all-time record held for a long time by LaSalle's Lionel Simmons.
And when Canisius threatened to get back into the ball game, and when they cut it down into the single digits and Fairfield was stagnant a little bit offensively, he bailed them out.
Well, Derek Needham has been just outstanding, as we've talked about. 5'11" freshman from Dalton, Illinois. He is our Pepsi Max Player of the Game. No surprise. Just one of many awards that continue to pile up in the trophy case of that terrific point guard.
He is a terrific package, as we said. Great leadership for a freshman, has a presence about him. Look at those numbers putting up. 25 points, 9 of 19 from the field, knocking down threes, running his team, and his presence on the floor when they needed shots. And all of a sudden, Canisius got back into the ball game. He was the answer each and every time. So they continue the dream of trying to dance their way into the big dance.
Now he also carried a 3.6 grade point average in high school. Scored a 23 on his ACT. Psych major at Fairfield. Last year, Chicago Catholic League Player of the Year. He is the total package.
And a guy that you can really build around. And, you know, when you're talking to recruits and say, you know what, I got a guy that'll get you the basketball. And a guy you'll like playing with for the next couple of years. And Ed Cooley very excited about his freshman class. Headlined by Keith Matthews, a 6'5" power forward out of Florida, who he really thinks is going to have a huge impact right away.
We are at the Times Union Center in Albany with Canisius taking on Fairfield in the late stages of our third quarterfinal. Doug Sherman along with former Division I assistant coaches Rob Kennedy and Vin Parisi, and that's what's to come. Iona and Niagara next as Goldsberry, who had the first 5 points of the game for Canisius, connects, and then the timeout called with 41.2 on the clock. It is an 8-point ball game, so still not completely done. But again, Canisius without its senior captain Frank Turner, who was ejected after having made contact to the midsection of Derek Needham, and the officials determined that it was a flagrant foul, and he was tossed from the ball game. There you see coming up next our final quarterfinal, Niagara and Iona. We've seen certain members of both the Gales and the Purple Eagles peeking out during this ball game, but they're back in and getting ready to come out in just a few seconds to start their warm-ups. But we have had 3 interesting ball games so far, and hoping for a 4th one. I certainly would anticipate the Gales and Purple Eagles put on a good show.
I think that should be a terrific matchup. Certainly throughout this season, Iona doing it with their defense, their depth, and their bench stretching you out. And Niagara, a team a lot was expected of early on, and took them a while to kind of put everything together. But remember, this is a team that beat Siena on their home floor handily in February. And Joe Mahowic's teams always play their best basketball coming down the stretch. You and I had their last regular season game, a terrific ball game in which these Fairfield Stags were able to win in overtime. But even in that game, you saw a different Niagara team flying around all over the place, playing with good energy. You're right. I think the last game, a little bit of a late start, but I think it's well worth the wait because I think that has the potential to be our best quarterfinal matchup.
No question about it. Needham breaks the pressure, and then the foul given by Himes. And Needham will shoot 2. Well, this number 2 seed for Fairfield, its highest in the MAAC tournament since 2003, and again having won 20 games and on the verge of winning their 21st. Hard to believe again, only 4 times previously in program history have they won as many as 20. But this season already will go down as one of the all-time great seasons in Fairfield history.
No question. They've also done a great job fighting their way inside the RPI top 100. And so certainly showing you their improvement. Also showing you their ability to win games on the road. And win games, Doug, playing at different styles. They can win games in the 50s and 60s. They can also win games that get up and down the floor. They've won games in the 70s and 80s. So I think that ability to win different ways really helps you in a tournament when you've got to play 3 games in 3 days and when you're going to many times see 3 different teams. Sometimes you got to beat a team by grinding it out. Sometimes you got to beat a team by getting up and down. They've got the ability to do both.
Yeah, a lot of parts. You know, you've got Anthony Johnson, first team all-conference power forward. You've got Ryan Olander, who we've talked about at 6'11", is pretty versatile, and when he is on his game and being proactive, creates a lot of trouble inside. And then we have talked quite a lot about the terrific guard play. We haven't seen much from Crawford in this ball game, but he went for 25 last weekend in the game. And then Needham, the best rookie by far in the league this season. And you've got the parts to be able to play those different styles as you talk about, Rob. Sean Gerzak coming into the ball game for Fairfield, a junior from Wilmington, North Carolina, replacing Olander as Ed Cooley clears his bench just a bit here in the final 20 seconds.
And it got a good effort today out of Olander. Olander came and was physical, banged inside, gave them some presence, and that's what they need. They need other guys outside of Needham and Johnson to step up and give them contributions. Didn't get one huge contribution from necessarily a third wheel, but what they did is they got many different contributions from other guys.
And a new career high for Derek Needham with the 29 points to lead all scorers. Time running down on the Canisius season. Bobby drinks. Bob Bevilacqua misfires. They're going to count that basket by Logans as the final horn sounds.
So Tom Parada's team, good effort in the second half to fight their way back into the ball game. You see he and Ed Cooley talking about advancing on into the MAAC semifinals. Ed may be a little bit under the weather, but you're right. He's going to feel a lot better after getting the win. Defensively in the first half, holding them to 14 points and then getting a career high out of the diaper dandy, Derek Needham, a terrific freshman guard, showing you why he set a MAAC record 10 times the Rookie of the Week. The runaway choice is the Rookie of the Year, and the runaway choice is Ed Cooley's favorite point guard in the MAAC.
Yep, no question about that. And Fairfield had a 21-point lead that was cut down to 6 in the second half, but Canisius just couldn't finish that run. And so Ed Cooley